This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. I'm still sort of smarting over that Jesse Waters interview of Abdul El-Sharia the other day that we talked about yesterday. In part, the back and forth they had about ICE, where the left is relentless, and this is a good illustration of the difference. The left is just relentless in demagoguing ICE, continuing to say ICE is disappearing people, ICE is indiscriminately shooting Americans in the back of the head. You know, they're a death squad. Continuing to mau ICE, demonize federal law enforcement officers as the enemy of a free people. And the Trump administration, and it's not just their responsibility, has sort of trailed off in the messaging here. I've also seen a trailing off with Senate candidates, you know, these key Senate races. Maybe less so House candidates, not as much profile around the country. And this seems to me a mistake. This is something where you need to be as relentless on the messaging as they are, and not in the generic terms about surging ICE officers there, or we've gone from 1,500 arrests a day to 2,000 arrests a day. We had 50,000 in the month of July. Not the data, the stories, the human impact stories. This should be every day. Like they did a couple of times at press conferences, like White House press briefings, where Caroline Leavitt would roll through a series of headshots and provide the thumbnail on the person in this country illegally who harmed other people and was captured by ICE and is now being removed. The people that the other side let in indiscriminately, even as they feign support for removing them now. They don't support it. They favor the same indiscriminate policies today that they favored when Joe Biden was executing them. Cannot be said enough. I understand people have legitimate economic security concerns, and those need to be addressed. But part of the message needs to be the first responsibility, as politicians always say, but I mean to those people who are not focused on this because you're not plying them with content on a regular basis like we need to. My first responsibility to you, John Q. constituent, is to ensure your public safety. And look at what we're doing on that front so that you don't become, or your family doesn't become, another cautionary or tragic tale of a lost loved one to a preventable crime if we just were serious about removing people who pose public safety threats. The other side is messaging their narrative. CBS News yesterday about said surge.
Increase. They are under tremendous political pressure from the White House and people like Stephen Miller, one of the president's top advisors, to expand immigration enforcement and to record up to 2,000 daily arrests. Historically, under Republican and Democratic administrations, most ICE arrests have occurred in local jails, state and federal prisons, away from the public's view, Tony. But to enforce President Trump's dramatic crackdown on illegal immigration, which is not just targeting criminal, egregious offenders, more ICE agents are being placed on the streets of American towns and cities to make arrests in broad daylight, in public. That is a strategy, Tony, that is more likely to create the dangerous and often tragic situations we have seen here in Houston and also in Maine.
So, Camila, let's talk about tactics as they pursue these arrests. In some cases,
so that is exactly 180 degrees off, and needs to be addressed again and again. I know Tom Homan has addressed it ad nauseum for years now. But they're still saying the same thing. That's something that, you know, Trump and others need to address straight away, in part because if you start to have, especially the president, address it, then it necessarily becomes something that will be addressed by all the talking heads, the chattering classes on cable news. It's something that'll go back and forth. We need back and forth, and we need the most influential spokesman on the topic, that would be President Trump, to instigate that back and forth because we win on the issue. And legitimately, people need to be focused on it because it's serious. What did the CBS News flack say? They're going to surge resources, so that necessarily means they're going to do it in the streets in public, and that's where things get dangerous, as if ICE is making things dangerous. When we know what the fact is, that they're surging in mainly sanctuary jurisdictions where they have to do things on the streets because local officials won't cooperate and allow them to work within the system to have access to the courts and the jails to notify, to honor ICE detainers, so it can be done more peacefully for all parties involved in the context of a prison, for example, and the security a prison affords. It's the sanctuary pals that are making this more dangerous for all parties concerned, not the federal law enforcement officers, as CBS News reported. But you have to say it again and again and again. You have to correct the record again and again and again. 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com, call and text line. It's like these stories. NBC News, you heard from CBS, you heard from NBC. Veteran who served 3 tours in Iraq War facing possible deportation. We're deporting veterans? That Trump, it's unconscionable. Right. Oh, and then you get past the headline, which most people don't. He has an extensive criminal history. After his service. He spent years in prison on various felony drug and weapons convictions, as well as violations of probation in both Virginia and California. And, you know, mom chalks it up to PTSD. And I don't know the guy, maybe that's a part of it. But in terms of being in this, not legitimately being in this country, and then committing crimes, an extensive criminal record, as I just described, that produces a little bit different context to the story than just the headline, veteran who served 3 tours in Iraq, facing possible deportation, doesn't it? But if you don't correct the record, that's the impression that's left. And this gets bandied about, and people's understanding of what's happening and why it's happening completely distorted. The last 2 weeks, a snapshot. The last 2 weeks in this country. Union County, North Carolina, illegal alien killed by police after prowler call. Harris County, Texas, illegal alien arrested for murder of teen. Miami-Dade County, Florida, illegal alien arrested for murder. New York City, illegal alien blamed for death of mother and child. Bucks County, Pennsylvania, illegal alien arrested for girlfriend's murder. Limestone County, Alabama, man on detainer arrested for shooting into home. Fairfax, Virginia, illegal alien arrested for woman's murder. Dallas County, Texas, man on detainer arrested for beating of a guard. Marion County, Indiana, man on detainer arrested for kidnapping woman. Dauphin County, Pennsylvania, 2 illegal aliens arrested for armed robbery. Duval County, Florida, 4 illegal aliens arrested for man's murder. Bay County, Florida, illegal alien arrested for stabbing 2. Jackson County, Missouri, man on detainer arrested for roommate's murder. Marion County, Indiana, 3 men on detainers charged in armed robbery. Hall County, Georgia, illegal alien arrested for attempted rape of a teen. And on and on and on. And every story should be told in every locality and then amplified by the National Republican Party and the Trump administration on the substance of it. How about CWB Chicago? 5 migrants from Chicago, charged with Indianapolis jewelry store heist, Tren de Aragua ties alleged. You know, we're 5 years, 6 years into the consequences of open borders policies. And because, they're not meandering in the streets around the Standard Club or sleeping in police stations, everything is fine now. The Trump administration is doing a lot of making a lot of plays here that should be noticed and discussed so it penetrates the consciousness of the public. Marco Rubio, in addition to this, what will be a court fight over upwards of 200,000 visa revocations, he's also pausing the issuance of visas so that staff can be trained in terms of making assessments about people who are seeking visas and whether or not they can live independently, making an assessment about whether or not they're going to be able to live independently or they granted a visa. Marco Rubio on the topic.
Allowed to visit your country should reflect the national interest. We said that from the very beginning. It was one of the directives that we got from the president. It's one of the things he ran on. And so our visa process basically is, and there are some times we'll deny people visas because of activities they've undertaken overseas. Other times it's people that have visas but are in the United States doing things that run counter to our national interest. And the law gives us the right, and in fact, I would argue the obligation to remove people like that from our country. And we're going to continue to do it. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, sometimes somebody comes in and says, oh, I want to come in as a student. They're here as a student, and then once they're here, they're involved in nefarious activity. We're going to remove them from the country. But maybe they're here as a researcher. Maybe they're here as, I don't want to say journalist because you guys will get upset, but, it could be anything. These are visitors to the country. A visa is a visitor. It's not a right. By the way, we deny visas every day all over the world. People will go to an embassy, they'll sit for an interview, and the consular officer will deny them a visa because of something that came up in the record, because of something that came up in their interview, whatever it may be. So if you have the power to deny someone a visa before they get one, you most certainly have the power to revoke it once they get one and then do something they shouldn't be doing.
So on the visa issue, including overstaying visas, it's always, you've always focused on the border, people coming over from the border. What about people who overstay their visas? Yeah. And what's the response always been? Yeah, we should look at both. Yeah. Most of illegal immigration, or at least it was once upon a time before Biden opened the borders completely, was overstaying of visas. Right. Well, we'll do something about it. I completely agree. Temporary protected status is supposed to be temporary. So is a student visa supposed to be temporary. You're no longer a student. Or a work visa. Now, if you no longer qualify under the rules of those visa programs, then yes, you need to be moved back to your country of origin. Oh, college is too expensive. Yeah, right. Affordability and the intersection here. How about the affordability and in the intersection just in terms of the expenditure of public resources to deal with this unbridled, unvetted, open borders immigration policies of the 4 years preceding Trump? What about all the benefits being conferred, including in-state tuition discounts for people living in states like Illinois in this country illegally? The Trump administration is going after them, going after the states, saying that you can't do that. Not if these institutions are accepting federal dollars. We have some say in that. Not if you want to accept federally subsidized student loans. We have some say in that. This needs to be amplified, talked about routinely, layered in on a daily basis with what is being done against the scope of the problem that has been inflicted upon us by the open borders identitarian left. You really want to reverse course on this topic? Because that's what you're going to do if you turn over Congress to that DSA-addled party. How about the consequences now with sort of mass unvetted immigration, even people in this country under color of law? Maybe some need to not only to have, there's a category of needing to have their category of people needing to have their visas revoked. How about people needing to be denaturalized when they gain legal status here on a fraudulent basis, or act as a subversive to this country's interests, as Marco Rubio was referencing? The status of that Somali population, The Somalis built Boston. They built Minneapolis, St. Paul. They built America. Joe Fletcher is the Ramsey County Sheriff in Minnesota, talking about the Minnesota State Fair and the problem he has with Somali gangs.
We've had gangs coming to the Minnesota State Fair for 30, 40 years. But they've always agreed the fair is neutral ground, and let's all go have fun and respect the fairgrounds. I've been here for many, many years, but we've never had threats of violence like we're having from the Somali gangs. We will have Karen gangs, we'll have some Hmong gangs here, we'll have some extremists on the right here. But none of them are promising chaos except for the Somali gangs.
When you don't have a segment of that community frauding the public coffers, you have them, a segment of that community, the community, preying on law-abiding citizens. So if you want that to be the new normal, then go back to the people that were in charge prior to Trump 2.0. I'd like to see some messaging in that direction with more regularity.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Don't you love summer in Chicago? But I bet you hate painting year after year, so do what your neighbor Rich did. He called Rhino Shield.
Aluminum siding built in 1961. It also had a lot of stains, and it was white, and we wanted to change the color.
And Rhino Shield comes with a 25-year warranty and is formulated specifically for our unique climate here in Chicago.
We're told that it's hard to paint aluminum siding and get a good adhesion with regular paint, so Rhino Shield was great.
And just in time for summer Chicago, you can get the guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield for 10% off the regular price.
It came on a Saturday,